Today I want to share with you, I guess we're going to be talking about what do we believe. And I think that, through time, my life has changed a lot in growing up and seeing what has happened to my people. I'm from a river. I'm from the Canyon River of McCloud. My people have been there forever until the Shasta Dam came in. And as the Shasta Dam came in, my people were displaced, and we became homeless, and we became poor, and we became subjects to the system and subjects to the boarding schools and other things that happened to us. And as I grew older and older, we didn't really learn anything about our people in the schools that we went to until later in college level. And at that time, I became very angry about what had happened, that was hidden. Nobody talks about it. Nobody knows it except for us. But my elders were not angry. They were not mad. They were still striving to live their way, still striving to tell us their stories, to teach us where those sacred places are, and about water, about how precious our water is, and that this water that I have right here is from the mountain. It's from Mount Shasta. And every time we talk to people, we know that we have a relationship with water. Each one of you have that same relationship. And the water has a molecule in it that's just for you. Even though it's all together, the water is that smart that we don't know what all it does. But we know that it's precious, but it's also a living being. It gives life, and it can take life. And that if we're not good to water, it can go away from us. And right now, I look at this world and I think the water is going away. The water is drying up. The water is becoming unusable. And we can blame each other for that if we want. But our focus has not been on our water. It's been not a gift, but it's there. It's there for us to use, abuse, whatever we want. It's there. It's always going to be there. That's our attitude. But I believe that if we don't stop that, and we don't follow our fish, we don't follow our salmon, we don't wake up, the water will teach us. Like my grandma says 30 years ago about these things that are coming true today. She's not here with me anymore, but I hear her words. I hear her stories. I see what she meant. I didn't know then when she was telling me that. It seemed like, no, that wouldn't happen. But it is happening. It's happening now. And people are still sleeping. They're sleeping through this part. And if they don't wake up, there'll only be a few people left. That's what she says. People will live on, but it's not going to be very many. And they'll start over. And maybe then they'll create a place that has a place in their hearts for the gift of water. And so right now we have I don't want to say a program or something, but we have a prayer that has come down from the mountain about following our fish, following our salmon, and that the salmon are the miracle fish of this state. They're the ones who continue to follow the ways that Creator put down for us. We have forgotten that. But the fish still do that. They still try to do that. And they do it. And we know this about salmon is that they only do it one time. This is why we know that Creator teaches them. Creator tells them, because they don't have any role models to follow. When the fish swim up the rivers and they spawn, they all die before the eggs are hatched. And when the eggs are hatched, there are no adult salmon in the river to teach them what to do, how to do anything, what to eat. But they figure it out. But all of a sudden they figure out that they have to go downstream. No other fish is going downstream. The trout's not going, the suckerfish not going, nobody's going. The frogs are staying, you know. But the little baby salmon, they start heading downstream. And from our mountain, you know, Mount Shasta, they have a long way to go downstream. And they must do that because Creator tells them it's time to go downstream, because nobody's taking them by their fin and saying, hey, come on, you know, come with us. And so they start going downstream. And as they go downstream, more and more rivers dump into the same waterway. And eventually they get to the Sacramento River. And the McCloud River's water is getting thinner and thinner as all of the rivers dump into the Sacramento River. And keep going down the river. And they come by the American River and the Feather River and all of them that come in until they get down to the Delta. And when they get to the Delta, they realize that they are freshwater fish. You know, they're from the McCloud River. And there is salt water there. And so they don't come together and say, you know, I think we made a mistake. Better head back upstream. I think that trout was right. They don't. They stay there for some reason, and I think it's because Creator assures them it's going to be okay. And they stay there, and they keep swimming there until they tolerate the salt water. They change, and it's in that estuary, this one right here. They change. And in the estuary, they become the saltwater fish that they need to be, and they swim out into the ocean, and they spend anywhere from 4 to 8 years in the ocean. Then all of a sudden in the ocean, you know, and they all swim together, right? They don't say, we're the McCloud River fish. We got to swim in our own school right here. We're not swimming with those Feather River fish. Those are my dues. Like, no. But they all swim together. And they're the giving fish because they're so needed in the ocean that the whales need them, the killer whales need them, all of the fish need them. And they are so giving that they feed everything in the ocean. And then something tells them, gonna have to go upstream. It's like, no, I really like this ocean. It's really big. It's nice out here, lots of water. But they all come together, all the McCloud River fish, they find each other, they come back, and they find the exact same estuary. If they're Trinity River fish, they go to the Trinity estuary and go up the river. So all of the McCloud River fish come into the Delta here in San Francisco. And when they come into the Delta, they have to realize that they're saltwater fish now. They're adult saltwater fish. They're pretty big, you know. And they're attempting to go up a freshwater river. And they don't say, you know what, we're too old to change. We're just too old to change and we're going to stay in the ocean now. This is what we got to do. They stay there. And in fact, when they change, the structure of their jaw actually changes. And the structure of their jaw changes for a purpose that is necessary upriver. And so as they change and they become freshwater fish again, they start upstream. They start going up the river. All together, they're going up the river, you know, and it's like 150 miles to Sacramento up the river. And when they get there, they don't say, you know what? I think we're just going to spawn here. It's been 100 miles. Swimming for 100 miles is a long way, and I'm tired. The ones who are going to be right there in Sacramento on the American River, they break off and they go up the American River. But the other ones, they can't say, well, why don't we just go up the American River? We'll just go up there too. It's right here, it's short. They have plenty of spawning ground up there. But they don't. They have to go on up the Sacramento River. And so then along comes the Feather River. And again, they can't say, it's been a long swim. I'm really tired. Those guys look like they have plenty of room up there, that we should just go up the Feather River and spawn. But they don't. Something inside them, something tells them. They've never done this before, but they're doing it now. And so the Creator, in our minds, is the one who is bringing them back to where they belong, where they came from. So they continue on. They continue on up. And the McCloud River fish are the highest ones on this runway. They have to go all the way to Mount Shasta. And they have to climb that mountain. It's not a valley river, right? It comes off of this mountain. They're going to climb up like 6,000 feet to spawn. And they continue to go back up to that river, and they spawn there, and they protect the eggs for as long as they can, and then they all die. Then it starts all over again. And for us, that means that this is the species, this is the animal, this is the director for us who have lost our way, who have been subjected to all of these changes that have disrupted our connection to Mother Earth, to the trees, to our food sources, that we should come back together and follow this again. And so we have this prayer of the run for salmon, and it's number 4 because there's supposed to be 4 runs of salmon. And the more people do for salmon, the more depleted they become. And so it's like, let's just step back, let the salmon do what the salmon are supposed to, get the people out of the way, open up the waterway so that they can go up there and do what they're supposed to do, and get rid of these hatcheries. And so we have flyers for the upcoming Run for Salmon, which will begin in September of this year, is because that is when the winter run salmon would be coming up to spawn. And right now, our winter run salmon from the McCloud River, because there's no more there since the Shasta Dam, just like there's no more Indians on the McCloud River since the Shasta Dam, we're in the same position. Whatever happens to the salmon happens to us. And so our salmon was sent to New Zealand from the fish hatchery that was on our river. And we went and we danced for those fish. There's a documentary called Dancing Salmon Home, which explains the whole process of what happened, the story of what happened, including the California Indian history, which most people don't understand why that has been put out like that. But we're going to go in April of this year to talk in detailed meetings with the Maori and the Fish and Game from New Zealand about a project coming up in June of this year to collect the DNA samples of the fish in New Zealand to prove to the United States that they are our fish, they are wild, they are winter run Chinook, and they are from California. We can't really take DNA directly back to the McCloud River because there are no fish in the McCloud River to check the DNA against. And so it's an uphill battle, right? It's like, it's the Fish and Game of California that sent the fish to New Zealand, and they had all the records and documents. But they say they don't have enough documents. And New Zealand has all the records and documents of the time that it was docked and the fish were put into the rivers, because New Zealand had no salmon before our salmon got there. They were introduced. And so, but that's not enough record for the Bureau of Reclamation, right? So we have to spend all this money, we raise all this money to go and do what the government should be doing to get back the appropriate species, the one that's entitled, the one that has the genes and the DNA to swim a mountain. Because the fish that are left in the Sacramento River Valley are not mountain climbers. You know, they're just not. And so that's a part of what, you know, our process in trying to figure out what is our job, what are we responsible for. And a lot of that has to do with the water and thinking back to we should be the caretakers of water. This is a public trust for everything downstream. We have learned that fish coming upriver, that tribes along the way could not take all of the fish, right? It's just not right. And so even for us, at the top end of the waterway, we would let fish go by because they have to spawn up above us. And if they couldn't make it over the rocks during low flow years, it was our job to net them and carry them above those rocks and release them in the river so they could go on up and spawn where they should. It wasn't like we come upon the pool that they can't jump out of and say, hey, look at all these fish for me. You know, because we have a responsibility. And in our creation story, fish are a major giver for us, in that when we named ourselves coming out of Mount Shasta as a spirit being to take care of the earth, every being had a purpose except for the human. When they named themselves human and ran off down the mountain, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, we're going to have extra help for that one. We're calling back the fire spirit, we're calling back the water spirit, we're calling back the mountain spirits to help them so that they have ways of praying, they have ways of knowledge, they can be taught through these ways. And the salmon heard about this because they had gone out just before the human came out. And the salmon came back and said, I will give that human my voice. Because salmon used to be able to talk. And so in that gifting, the human took the responsibility to always speak for salmon. And so the Winnemem people are the speakers of salmon. We still carry that obligation, that gift, that right to speak for the salmon. And that's what we're in the process of doing. You know, and as I say, everything that happened to salmon happened to us. So the reduction of salmon also happened to the Winnemems. We had a major reduction in our population. And so we're just now coming about again to speak out in places like this for the things that is good for all people. The waterway has to be cleaned up for all people. And if we can share part of what we believe about fish and about water, that maybe other people will be brave enough to have the courage enough to stand up in those meetings where they are deciding what to do about water. Because, you know, in our area right now, we're also fighting against 2 water bottling companies on Mount Shasta and in McCloud. We're also bringing about the issues of the water in the Sacramento River and how irrigation is irresponsible. And we don't hold them. There are no restrictions on irrigation or water bottling companies to help the state of California with the drought issues. Most of the water bottling that will happen in Mount Shasta and in McCloud will be shipped out of state and out of country. But worse than that is that they're going to take pristine water that should be flowing down the waterway, not only for the salmon, but for all things needing water, and they're going to contaminate half of it by bottling it. But the other half that people don't realize maybe is that they contaminate the part that they sell to you as well. The first thing they do is they put disinfectant in the spring water so that it'll have a longer shelf life. Because living water turns green. It grows things. Because it has minerals, it has everything that is for growing. I mean, that's why we grow so well when we drink real water. And we're at a time now when most people don't even know what water tastes like. What does real water taste like? We don't know anymore. Most of the population has no idea. And most of us are trained not to drink the water in the mountains, right? Don't drink out of the rivers. But we're not appalled. It's like, we should clean those places up if we can't drink out of them. Why aren't there jobs in doing that? Cleaning up our water. Stop dumping sewer in our water. It's like, I don't know where that practice came from, but it certainly wasn't here before California became a state. That was not done. It was like, we don't do that. But it's done now. And we have no restrictions on irrigation. We have nothing even in the works to say, we think our agriculture should have filtration systems before they dump back into the drinking water system. But we don't, and so we have major towns that have arsenic in their water. We have all kinds of things in the water. And I believe that we can change that. The common people like you, people like these young people who haven't decided what they're going to do with their life yet, can change this. And we have to do it now. The water is already teaching us. I mean, like Graham said, when they said global warming is happening, right? 10 years ago or something. Global warming, this and that about it. And she said, that's not global warming. That's global warnings. There are warnings. They're trying to teach the people to change. But the people don't take the responsibility to change. In my neighborhood, because we're trying to bring back the salmon, we also have a campaign against Roundup, right? It's like, oh my gosh, but I only use 1 gallon. It's like, well, how many people live in this county? 30,000? So that's 30,000 gallons. It's going in your water system. And you're complaining about water, and you're dumping Roundup in your groundwater right at your house. We're not talking about farming and agriculture. We're talking about people's houses, the fertilizing and the pesticides that are used right outside that seep into the ground, because not very many places the water can seep into the ground, except for mostly houses and their lawns, because everything is paved. And whatever is paved goes into these gutters that are in pipes that ship it off, so nothing can get down into the groundwater. So our groundwater is depleting, and we have no way of changing that. But that's where the jobs are, right? We could resurface these roads with things that are where water can go through the road and change things for ourselves. But we don't want to spend that money, but we want to create jobs. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, I wanted to share our Run for Salmon flyers. If you're interested, it is on Facebook. You can tag into us to see where we're at. You can come and join any part of it. We have a big ceremony on the river at the end of it. And it's for our fish. It's for the water, and it's for the fish, and it's for the people to wake up and start taking responsibility for the things that we can. The things that we can do. And so I think I'm probably out of time, am I? I'm right on time then. So, just in short, the Winnemem Wintu people, there's only 125 of us left who believe in the traditions and culture of our ways. We survived the first policy of California, exterminating the Indians. Our population was at around 20,000 people in our watershed. By 1910, there was 395. Winnemems left. We were fortunate enough that our leadership survived. So the leadership that I have now is, I'm the 5th leader of my tribe since the coming of California. And our leadership is by succession. We are not by voting. And we are leaders for life. And so our points of view and our teachings last a long time. But we begin our training a lot earlier than other people do. The next chief of our tribe is already selected, has already been born, and her followers, her people who are going to support her, they already know that they better get their licks in now, because, because when she's the chief, it's over. And so that makes us still different than a lot of people. Like some people might want to say that we are a dictatorship. It's like, well, I live right with my people. Whatever I have, they have. And so it isn't even close to that kind of leadership. And we are trying to make a comeback as far as our land, our village. My grams had 42 acres that she purchased after the flooding of the river because all the Indians had to leave. She had to be the one to help dig up the cemeteries of the recent burials to move to another area that wasn't underwater. But we still have a lot of burials that are under Shasta Lake. We have a lot of sacred places that are under the 26 miles of river that got flooded. And we are in the process, we wait for the lake to recede from our sacred sites to hold our puberty rites ceremony and to access some of the other sacred places that we continue to use today. And now they're talking about raising Shasta Dam, which is, I hope that people can and will speak against raising Shasta Dam. It's a bad idea. And it's not just bad because my sacred sites are going to be flooded, but there's toxic waste at the bottom of Shasta Dam. And they estimate it's at 60 feet. 60 feet of toxic sludge. During the drought, when Shasta Dam was at 35% full, we said, why don't you draft out the sludge and you'll create more volume for water? And they said, well, it's toxic. We don't know how to neutralize it. It'd be way too expensive. And I'm thinking, so your answer is to put more water on top of the toxic sludge that's building up all the time. Because why? Maybe the young people are going to be smarter in the future and they'll know how to neutralize this kind of poison. And most of the dams are not any different than Shasta because of the mining that happened in California. We had strip mines and we had hydro mines that ripped mountains apart, and those mountains are still bleeding. And they bleed into the lake. And so these are other reasons why everybody should not be, we should stop that archaic way of thinking about water storage and start utilizing some of the new science that's out there. I like some of the stuff that I see about the new science that is not invasive to fish or birds, and that would suffice in dealing with the issues and needs of the people. But people are not schooled to believe that. We believe that we have to see water in the dam to know and feel safe that we have water, right? If the dams are low, and this is what I learned too, it's like, remember a couple years ago when all the dams, Folsom Lake was at 11%, and Shasta was at 35%, and then you looked at Southern California, and Lake Pyramid was at 99% full. It's like, and they don't get no water, right? They get it from us. So how'd that dam get full, and ours are all empty? So anyway, there's a lot of issues that, you know, we could talk about, and hopefully that we will talk about, and take time to follow the salmon, to do what you can at your home, you know, do away with, or get on my campaign against pesticides being used in the yard. You know, we like the organic farming. Let's like organic communities. So thank you very much. Oh.